They tell you that the sun hurts you, but they don't tell you that in ancient hospitals there were solariums because the sun detoxifies you, giving you electromagnetic energy. They tell you about the magnetic fields of magnets, but they don't tell you about the magnetic field around your body. The disease appears in this field before it manifests itself physically in your body. The sun is electric, the earth is magnetic, and you are electromagnetic. That is why the ancients had earth shoes to connect to the magnetic earth. The sticks were not just for fashion. They were used as conductors of electromagnetic energy to ground the body. Now we wear sunglasses to block the sun's healing rays from entering our nervous system. We have lost the true connection to our nature, being turned into electrical batteries that run through a circuit board matrix. The next stage of human awakening is a revolution of human consciousness. If you don't agree with this video, you are heavily programmed to follow the orders of the elite. And there is nothing wrong with that. We are programmable beings. I was too. I just started to question everything. Since I read the book, Know the Only Truth, where it was revealed to me the true manipulation exercised by the elites and how I could raise my consciousness to free myself from the system. You choose which program you let in, whether it frees you or traps you. If you are interested in going deeper into this, go to the link in my profile where I left more information about this book.
Look closely at this photo from 1813. It's the city of Krakow in southern Poland, flooded. But this flooding is not normal. It can happen after a hurricane or cyclone, but much bigger. Take a look at the surrounded building that is half submerged. The flooding has been so bad that other nearby buildings are almost completely submerged. So what could have caused this flood in 1813? It was caused by the Great Flood of 1802 following a 600-foot tsunami. And the photograph shows the waters receding 11 years later, and the buildings that were underwater beginning to appear on top. Some have doubts, saying that the camera was invented in 1839, how they photographed the flood of 1813. Well, the camera was invented long ago during the Tartars, and after Tartaria was decimated, destroyed by the Great Flood of 1802, the camera was just reintroduced by parts that control the world today.
They've been hiding the true answer to this question from us. Why are these doors and windows halfway in the ground? In the early 1800s, strange things were happening all over the world. Cities were being dug out from under layers of mud and debris. Buildings were being uncovered that were buried up to their rooftops in mud. A global disaster buried entire civilizations, erasing them from history. This is where it gets unsettling, the Tartarian Empire. This empire, often shown on old maps, was an advanced civilization in Europe and Asia. They built amazing structures, had advanced technology, and could harness energy from the atmosphere. Many believe the mud flood was a deliberate attempt to erase Tartaria from history, hiding their advanced technology and knowledge. But it gets even darker. Look at the world's fairs of the late 1800s and early 1900s. These elaborate buildings, which looked like ancient architecture, were said to be built in just a few years. After the fairs, they were supposedly demolished. Was this to erase evidence of an advanced pre-existing civilization? The Chicago World Fair in 1893 and the St. Louis World Fair in 1904 showcased magnificent architecture. Official records claim these buildings were made with plaster and wood. Do these really look like temporary buildings to you? Their sudden disappearance makes you wonder, were they actually parts of the Tartarian Empire, disguised as temporary exhibits and then destroyed to hide their true origins?
Education is funded by the Rockefeller family. They needed more employees than thinking people. This same family created the Federal Reserve, which invents money out of thin air, generating debt for us. All the money goes through them, and they make money by inventing money. They funded science and medicine, and by owning education, they started training doctors, treating problems, and generating a customer for life to feed their other businesses, being more of a selling point than preventing and curing at the root. Our food no longer has the same amount of nutrients it used to have, thanks to companies that created genetically modified food, which in the long run generates cancer and many other diseases. Our food makes us sick, leading us to medicine. It seems as if all businesses are connected. While education leads us to have a life behind the system and consume these businesses, We spend money that is beholden to the Federal Reserve. What a coincidence that all businesses feed off each other. Many people think they are conspiracies. I used to think so too. But when I started to research about this topic in books by different authors, such as the one by Sebastian Santisteban entitled Know the Only Truth, I realized that all this is closer to reality than I thought. I began to question my life while freeing myself from the system of manipulation exercised by the elites through fear, raising my level of consciousness and managing to live a life from higher states of my being.
3 billionaires who opposed the Federal Reserve all died on the Titanic. That's not a coincidence. In 1912, the Titanic set sail with over 2,000 passengers. But among them were Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidor Straus, and John Jacob Astor, 3 of the wealthiest men in the world, and all 3 publicly opposed the creation of the U.S. Federal Reserve. They weren't just rich, they had power, enough to stop the banking system we use today. But none of them survived. Meanwhile, the man who funded the Titanic's construction, J.P. Morgan, was also one of the biggest supporters of the Federal Reserve. He was supposed to be on the ship, but he canceled at the last minute. No reason, no explanation. He lived, they didn't. A year later, the Federal Reserve Act was passed, with its strongest opposition conveniently removed. But it goes deeper. Some say the ship that sank wasn't even the Titanic, but her identical sister ship, the RMS Olympic, swapped in a massive insurance fraud cover-up. The wreck at the bottom of the ocean doesn't fully match Titanic's design. Different windows, inconsistent layout, almost like it was a different ship. So was it just an accident? Or the most elaborate setup in financial history?